called to order. I am Pam England from Parish Junior College, serving as convening chair. Please be advised that this meeting is being recorded. We have a full agenda for this initial meeting, so let's begin by calling the roll. Mr. Gilmore, will you please call the roll?
Ms. Crawford?
Here.
Mr. Maldonado?
Here.
Dr. Wallace?
Here.
Mr. Patrick Lee? Are you on the phone? Mr. Richard Cervantes? He was supposed to be on the phone as well. Are you there? Nobody on the phone? Ms. Wicklund?
Here.
Mr. Yiannopoulos? Here. Mr. Reeser?
Here.
Dr. Riza? Here. Ms. Anglin is here.
Here.
Dr. Rhodes? Here. Dr. McMillan?
Here.
Ms. Mary Alonzo?
Right here.
Lizondo?
No.
Okay. We have a quorum.
A quorum is present. I would like to welcome the committee members and thank you for your attendance. I want to start out by saying a huge thank you to those members that were on the committee last time around 2 years ago, and so we're going to miss them this time. But welcome to our new members, which are Dr. Wallace and Ms. Elizondo. Welcome to you. Item 2 is consideration of the election of a chair and vice chair. Do I hear a nomination for a chair?
I have one. I recommend you remain our chair.
Recommend Jeremy for associate chair or
Vice chair.
Vice chair.
Vice chair. He's a vice chair.
Are there any other nominations for chair? Do we have a second for the chair?
Second.
Who seconded?
Dr. Wallace. We have a motion by Ms. Crawford and a second by Dr. Wallace that I remain as chair. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And those opposed, same sign. Do we have a nomination that Jeremy remain as vice chair? Do I have a second?
Second.
Dr. Riza? So the motion was made by Mr. Yiannopoulos, seconded by Dr. Riza. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Dr. McMillan will remain as vice chair. Item 3 is a briefing on the community and technical college funding formulas presented by Mr. Roland Gilmore.
Oh, gee, thanks. I should know this by heart, but I still have to look at this thing. Formula funding appropriations. Formulas are used for appropriated dollars. Formulas should be equitable, allocated funds among institutions. The formulas reflect how state funds are earned and not how they are spent. Appropriations are made on a lump sum basis rather than by a line item in the Appropriations Act. Institutions may spend their appropriated formula funds by any purpose authorized by statute. A formula should be fair and equitable, provide adequate funding to support institutional missions, provide incentives for institutions to engage in desirable behaviors, be simple and understandable, and be stable and predictable. Formula use is authorized by statute surrounds instruction, department operating expenses for that instruction, academic support, which includes library, student services, and institutional support. These are broad terms. They get down into a little bit more detail in your finances. Well, we're starting the process or the timeline again for the appropriations process. We start, number one, from August through December of 2019, possibly into January convening the Formula Advisory Committee and making our recommendations that will go to the Commissioner. In February-March timeframe of 2020, the Commissioner will take our input, this committee's input, and develop recommendations for committee on affordability, accountability, and planning. April 2020, the CB, or the Coordinating Board, will adopt those formula recommendations. June 1, the staff will forward the final formula recommendations to the LBB and the Governor's Office. In the summer of 2020, it begins the official base year. So that's when we'll start developing what the base year for contact hours, success points, and all those other parts of the formulas. And then we'll issue the first round of the formula funding to the LBB during November, actually November 1. And then there will be a spring submission as well, and that usually happens March 1. This year, the core funding amounted to $68.04 million. The split between contact hour funding and the student success points was roughly a 87-13 split, whereas I think in the initial funding year, when success points are added, it was a 90-10 split. So we are seeing more funding going toward the success points than in towards the contact as far as the percentage goes. The success point funding, there are roughly 5 major areas: developmental education. There are the first level English and math courses called the Gateway courses. We also have college credit attainment, completion of 15 as well as 30 semester credit hours. Credentials, completion of certified core curriculum and or bachelor's degree are offered. Transfer to general academic institution. And the Commissioner pointed out a lot of that information today in his address to try to help close the gap. Transfer to general academic, having completed 15 hours of coursework. The main formula that funds the community colleges as well as state colleges is the contact hour funding. Contact hour enrollment formula covers academic and technical programs both. There is a 10% bump in critical fields in each one of the funding categories. And based on cost study of 26 disciplines using the contact hour rates, formula is 100% general revenue for community colleges. Any questions? No questions. Great. Thank you.
And we will move to agenda item 4. We have been provided 6 charges from the Commissioner, so we will go through discussion of the Commissioner's charges to our committee. Charge 1 is to study and make recommendations for the appropriate funding levels for the contact hour, core, and the student success funding. For the 2020 biennium, the formulas were funded at $2.062 billion. And in your materials for the meeting today, staff has provided some data for this charge in the material. And then charge 2 is to study and make recommendations for the appropriate funding level for and the refinement of Texas State Technical College System's return value funding formula. The third charge is to study and make recommendations on the efficacy of critical need fields as they relate to contact hour and success point funding. Staff will provide information regarding this charge at the next meeting. And then charge 4 is to evaluate the continued relevancy of each success point and its components, given various state-level policy changes, the increased focus on fields of study, and the implementation of the co-requisite model in developmental education, and study and make recommendations for the appropriate number of points to be awarded for each metric. staff will provide information regarding this charge at the next meeting. With charge 5, we are to study and make recommendations for the appropriate methodology for including the second 8-week courses in the base period. And then finally, with charge 6, we are to study and make recommendations for the appropriate definition of a student in a structured co-enrollment program successfully completing at least 15 semester credit hours at the community college. And staff will provide information regarding this charge at the next meeting. So at this time, we need to determine how we're going to go about our work. And historically, we have formed work groups and have someone chair each work group. So I would ask that you look at those charges and let's have discussion on whether we need to combine some of them for a work group or look at each of them individually. And we'll just open it up for discussion on how you see us dividing up in work groups this year.
So there is a lot of overlap on charge 1 and the charge 4 with success points and charge 6, which is also into success points. I'm trying to flip between those. Do you see any other commonalities?
And probably the third one on critical needs fields as they relate to contact hour and success point. And I would say probably on charge 1, keep that one separate from the success point discussion. And I think that's what we've done historically.
I think that would be helpful for the state colleges.
Yeah.
To do that.
Right. That's what we did last time.
Point. And so also number 6, because although it says at the community college, would this also be at the state colleges?
Well, the co-enrollment actually affects the community colleges more because that particular measurement goes into the success point funding.
Okay.
So that's where the determination needs to be and reported. I agree with the charge 1. We can come up with our recommendations for funding separately because I think that mostly the charges that have surrounding the success points are going to be recommendations on what to include in future success points and correct me if I'm wrong, as far as the values for those success points. And I think charge 2, Mr. Reister has the main input on that one. So if we want to combine those two, A and B, or charge 1 and charge 2, focus on just coming up with our funding recommendations, that might work.
I would kind of like to sit on the committee for the return value, just so I can learn more about it. I know it doesn't relate to them, but that could be something that the state colleges could be interested in.
The last couple times, those who served on the committee for TSTC stuff, I think, found it helpful to really understand how the approach is so different than contact hours that they found it helpful to imagine it.
And we kept the 1 and 2 separate
Kind of
in the past. So it looks like 4 work groups. The first one would be the funding levels for contact hour, core, and student success funding, and for the community colleges and for the Morris State colleges. And then 2 would be the funding of TSTC. 3 would be revolve around the success points. So that would be charge 3, charge 4, and charge 6. And then the 4th one would be the methodology for including the second 8-week courses in the base period. Does that sound right to everybody, 4 work groups?
What is the first?
First one would just be charge 1,
So separating out
TSTC.
TSTC and, yeah, okay, that's good, makes sense.
On charge number 5, so are they saying in the base period because the second 8 weeks is past the
Past the census
Okay.
date, yes.
For base year.
We've, this past, just to give you kind of a brief update, there were 4 schools that participated in this 8-week, in this past legislative appropriations, and we had to develop a methodology by which to estimate that second 8 weeks, and we ended up, how we did it for this last appropriations was a ratio. So we used the previous fall and the second 6 weeks of the previous fall and did a ratio analysis to see what that was going to be. And then we followed up with that in the November one. They had their first 8 weeks reported, so we applied a methodology, that ratio, to that to give them what the next 8 weeks were going to be. Same thing in the spring.
Do you true up that in the spring?
Well, we tried to true it up, and actually it came out very close because we took a look at what the ratio produced and then actually took the certified data, and it was very close. You know, it was so close that it would not make the difference between, you know, cause a 2% variation, which is kind of the rule of thumb that we kind of look at to see if we do any kind of reappropriation. Now, this is the first biennium that all of the schools, when we asked them to be error-free, was actually very close. And, you know, we didn't hardly have any variations except for, you know, 5 or 6 schools. And it was clear that their error-free probably was not as close as it could have been. And so I was very pleased with that kind of reporting for this last biennium because I stressed that very heavily.
Well, were any of those 4 schools in the pilot actively ramping up their 8-week
Yes,
offerings?
and that did look, that was a...
That's where we are, and I'm
Yeah.
afraid that if you base it on this year for next fall, it's...
And in some cases, there was one school that we used a proxy because we had nothing else to use.
Okay.
So we tried to use, and that's why we want to make sure that we have something here from this Formula Advisory Committee that's very, takes into account all those variations that we could actually come across. Because I know when, I believe it was Odessa or Midland, that area, we had to completely estimate their entire 8-week course because they were
Brand new.
Yeah, they were brand new, and so
New deal.
we came pretty close to that one as well. So we have to have a methodology by which to do this going in the future, because so many other schools are going to that.
Starting with the first work group, which covers charge 1, community colleges and Lamar. Do I have someone that is willing to chair that work group?
Who's our resident accountant here?
Not me. I don't do debits and credits. I'm a statistician.
Mary? Yeah. So Mary, you're willing to chair it again. So Mary Wicklund will chair that, and then who wants to work with Mary on that, in that work group? Mary Elizondo. I'll do it. And Jerry Crawford. And I'll sit in and work.
We can include you in that group?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, great.
I'll work with that group. And then Mr. Reeser, charge 2.
I volunteer.
And then
It's a good thing. He's the only one that's got all the experience.
Head south, then turn right.
And then Mary
Yes.
Wicklund will work on that work group. Anyone else like to? Robert Wright?
I'll go with Reeser, just because. For giggles,
Dr.
just for
Wright.
giggles. And,
I don't mind serving that as well.
Okay.
Anyone else?
Britt Wallace, Dr. Wallace? And then our work group that will look at the success point funding, critical fields, so the 3 combined charges with it.
So I'll do that. We've got the metrics committee as well.
Okay. Dr. McMillan will chair that work group, since he's working with chairing the metrics
I'd like to
in the field.
Mike Reeser.
All right. Mike Reeser. So I have Dr. McMillan, Bill Rhodes, Mike Reeser. Anyone else on Success Point?
what else will that cover?
That covers critical needs
All
fields
the
as
meetings
they
will be
relate to
Waco,
contact hour and
'cause we can
Success
expose
Point.
everything.
It covers continued relevancy of each Success Point and the intentions that were listed in the rider. So,
The definition of the co-enrollment, 15, completing 15 hours.
Cesar, did you get him?
Copy of file.
Okay.
And we need to keep in mind, we've got 2 that aren't here and volunteer.
Yeah.
That's right.
Richard might want to serve on the, charge 1.
Probably, yeah, we'll put Richard on.
Okay.
We'll put Richard on charge 1. Richard Cervantes. And then,
Just a meeting and you.
Patrick Lee,
What does he do?
he's a faculty member at Alamo.
in math?
He served last time, didn't he? Yeah, he was on our committee.
Mr. Yiannopoulos, where would you like to serve?
Wherever you want to go.
Well, you pick what is of most interest to you, and we'll put you on that.
Do we serve only on one of
You
these?
can
Serve on multiple.
Because I'm interested also in the 8
8
weeks.
weeks.
Which one? 8 week, I'm interested in that one too. You want on that one?
Which one?
Success point.
Success Point. So Jim Yiannopoulos is on Success on 3. Okay. And then our work group 4 will be the group that works on the appropriate methodology for including the second 8-week courses in the base period.
So I'll serve on that because I'm one of those that went through the process, but I would like another person to chair.
I'd like to serve on that as well.
Okay, Sherry?
I'd also like to serve on that. Nobody wants to be the chair.
Okay.
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 All right,
The question is that, because when we start coming back to meet, don't we break up into committee work, or you have to
We
be able to
can-
schedule?
Yeah, we can either schedule some work groups prior to our committee meeting, or we can schedule them after. You know, we're kind of, I have to find availability because our main committee meeting will be held in the boardroom
Committee meeting.
from here on out. That one's
I love that place.
not as easy to book ahead of time, so Lone Star's fairly flexible, and we've met in the Tejas room as well. So I can find areas where we can meet so that we can kind of combine a couple of work groups. Now, I can't be at all of them, but
Right.
I can try.
So we're going to try to do at least conflict where we do some before and some after the meeting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Dr. Wallace, you want to chair that work group?
I'm willing to if you want me to.
Dr. Wallace is going to chair.
Okay.
How many did you get there?
So I've got
I've
Terry,
got
Bill,
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Terry, Phil, Brent, me, and Jim.
Okay.
Terry wanted to be on the 8 week?
Uh-huh.
That was Terry.
See, Jim Yiannopoulos, Terry Crawford, Mary Wicklund, Jeremy McMillan, and Dr. Wallace is going to chair it.
Okay.
Okay. I'll go back through the makeup of each work group real quickly. So, work group 1, which is the funding levels for contact tower, core, and student success funding, will be chaired by Mary Wickland, and on it will be Richard Cervantes, Pam Anglin, Mary Elizondo, and Terry Crawford. Work group 2, which is the funding level for TSTC college systems, return value funding formula, will be chaired by Mike Reeser, Mary Wickland, Robert Riza, and Brent Wallace will be on that work group. Work group 3 will be our student success point metrics work group, and it will be chaired by Jeremy McMillan. On it will be Jim Yiannopoulos, Phil Rhodes, Cesar Maldonado, and Mike Reeser. And then work group 4 will be chaired by Brent Wallace, and on it will be Jeremy McMillan, Jim Yiannopoulos, Terry Crawford, and Mary Wickland. Did I miss anybody? We will move to item 5, which is the discussion of dates and assignments for subsequent meetings. In the agenda materials, you will find a calendar with tentative future meeting dates shaded in blue and days where this room is not available shaded in red. All future meetings are tentatively set to begin at 1 o'clock p.m. So let's review our dates of the future meetings. The next meeting is scheduled for Thursday, September 19th at 1 o'clock p.m. And we're at the end of 19th of August, and we're at the start of a new semester. So I would suggest we use that date for work group meetings and not have a full committee meeting.
For me.
If that would, and that way the different work groups can schedule time that day. Is that?
That's a board meeting for me, but that's, yeah.
Because we've had trouble getting anything done by the first meeting.
No, I meet in the
In
afternoon. My
past
board's
years,
full. I don't
so.
want them driving at night. I said
Does that
so.
sound
I'm sorry. I'll debrief you on what happens while you're taking care of your geriatric board. You think I'm lying?
So you want me to schedule all work groups?
I'll schedule all work groups for the September 19th and not a full committee meeting.
Good for me.
Okay?
All right.
And then we'll discuss the logistics here. I'm not sure I have 4 meeting rooms, so we may have to share.
And we can do different
We can kind of
times,
do
because
different
several are on
times,
two different work groups.
We could each
So
meet.
I will take a look at that.
Virtual later.
For the 19th, we're going to not have a meeting.
Come to your place, we'll eat. Mm-hmm.
Formal meeting.
Formal meeting, so
Right.
we're going to do work groups only.
Just work groups only.
That was September 19th.
I'm trying to reconcile that with the conversation that we had around the presentation that was going to be made on critical fields by staff. Is that going to be for all of us, or is it not going to be?
We can have whatever either the work group or the committee wants to do.
I just remember
Now,
hearing
the critical
that, so.
fields, there's, to my knowledge, the only ones that were added by the LBB were those that, you guys are already aware of.
Okay.
If there were any other discussions about critical fields, whether either continuing on with them, since that was the old plan, and then there may be some other discussions about fields of study.
Could we get the data provided to the whole committee on the current critical fields, the ones that were added, and then the data on the awarding of funding on the different critical fields by college to that?
That might take a little bit to do because I have to identify those in each one of the contact hour structures, so that might take some
Or
time.
can we at least get critical fields and the total number of?
In the basis of legislative appropriations, we do have what critical fields are at a total, not at a specific. It's at our fund codes that we have, you follow me? But on the contact hours page,
Right.
they do have the critical fields, both technical and academic, at the total by fund code for each institution.
Okay.
So
Well,
we
we
do
got
have
that.
that
Yeah.
level. As far as specific class or rubrics, I don't have that. Does that make sense?
It does.
Okay.
What about data for the committee on the high demand fields, supply and demand for the state from the Workforce Commission?
Now, that's going to be a different story. I'm not sure that I will see what I can get from the folks that actually deal with that information.
The reason I was saying that, I thought I saw that somewhere in writing, but I'm on too many committees, so I may have seen it in another committee.
Quite possibly. High demand?
For the chairs of the different work groups, any information, any data that your committee needs, then
Yeah, you need to
contact Will.
send me
So
some.
can I speak up there, Roland? The data set that you provided last cycle is exactly for charge 2 is exactly what we could use this.
Yeah, I've got Chelsea's already working on the latest value-added piece of it. And then I'm doing I know that your particular formula for dual credit was funded based on your LAR and not the formula, but I did run it through the formula to see where it parsed out, and I'm doing a trend to kind of.
It was a placeholder because
Exactly.
no one knew exactly.
And after I spoke with Emily later or earlier in the month, she said they want to eventually drive that with the formula.
Oh, we're prepared to say, yes, it should drive right now. I think funding will go
Right.
down, but that's
That's
okay.
the key, because I remember you making the statement that you were transferring most of your academic stuff off to community colleges, and you'd be mostly in the technical. So I'm thinking that your contact hours are going to show a decrease, but the rate for those contact hours, which I already calculated in your basis of legislative appropriations, might make up for some of that. So we'll just have to wait and see how it plays. And I'm also getting a trend by fiscal year on the dual credit from
you'll see that go down too.
Yeah. Because I know what it was for the base period. Yes, sir.
I'd like us to address the funding for baccalaureate degrees. The disparity there is, our approach to it is by partnering with universities and offering baccalaureate degrees to students where they never have to leave our campus to achieve that. And we've got a partnership with UT Tyler and several with University of Houston downtown. So our BSN, for example, same faculty, same building, same labs. We share the faculty with UHD. And because of that, we don't receive any funding or contact hour reimbursement for baccalaureate degrees. Yet right next door, we've got community colleges that are offering baccalaureate degrees, and that's fine, but they get reimbursed at a higher rate from the same pot of money. And so that's a disparity in we've proven out that our method is the least expensive to the student and the state. We're not duplicating having to duplicate any resources, yet we're getting harmed because of that. So I want us to have that dialogue. And
we can certainly have that dialogue, but the BAT, as far as the way I understand the funding should work for the new baccalaureate degrees that come on, that don't come under the pilot schools where the BAT, Bachelor of Applied Technologies, occur, which is funded at the undergraduate level of the general academics,
But not the new,
but not the new ones.
Not the new
ones
ones.
were specified in the legislation to be contact hour funded
regular
based
contact hours.
at the same rate, contact hour, whether it was a undergraduate or a graduate, is the way I understood the new baccalaureate degrees to be funded.
Correct.
So we capture that. So the coordinating board had to add, if you will, to the WECM database the 3,000 and the 4,000 level classes so that we could capture those hours and fund them at the contact hour rates.
So all baccalaureate contact hour funding is going to be done at the same rate as the standard community college?
That is correct.
All new ones.
That's the way I understand it was supposed to happen.
Got grandfathered at the.
Well, but I want us to address that because we made a decision to go a certain way rather, and the funding wasn't really considered. And even though they're grandfathered in, and at the end it might not make a big dollar difference. I just want to run the numbers out to see what difference it makes.
Well, there is one item that I did do for House Bill 1630 on as far as dual credit, looking at, there were some suggested variations in that same scenario as far as what the community colleges got funded at versus what a general academic. And general academics, as you all know, get a dedicated piece of that, which roughly is about 28%. So I looked at the level of liberal arts, which is where the lowest weighting was for both general academic and the community colleges. And you apply the contact hour funding to the community colleges, and you apply the rate for the semester credit hour to the general academics, community colleges came out $1 ahead in that total.
I did that calculation too.
And it was we're actually getting funded at a much larger rate. Now, when you start looking at the general academics they have a lot more going on in their formula than we do. And when you get to the doctoral, the PhDs, the areas, those weightings obviously increase tremendously. But between undergraduate and the baccalaureate degrees that you're talking about, I think those weightings are pretty close to what we have. But we can certainly look
So I
at
have
it
a
if
question.
you
So
decide.
I'm wondering if this fits under a co-enrollment program, because you're not teaching there for level classes, right? You're not teaching those. The university is.
Right, but we're sharing faculty so that whether that professor is clocked in under us or as an adjunct for the university is up to, the department's keeping track of all that, the program is rather. So,
Okay.
yeah, but the university, the faculty of record is a university person, but not the college person.
Who's awarding the credit?
Exactly.
The university is.
To that student that's enrolled in that university or enrolled at that community college.
They're co-enrolled.
So they would be, that university would be funded at that rate for whatever semester
Yeah,
credit hours.
I know how ours is working, but my comment was for the baccalaureate degrees that are being issued by the community colleges.
Yeah,
Right.
and
And I just want to run through the numbers and get familiar with them. They are what they are, but I need, in order for us to cast out our next step on how we want to approach the baccalaureate opportunities is to have a clear view of what the funding looks like from today moving forward.
Well, the reason I mentioned the co-enrollment is that's the success points
Yeah.
that today you would get those if we define the co-enrollment program. But you're talking about contact hours.
So I think that there are 4 community colleges in the state. I think it's Brazos, Port Odessa College, Tyler, and South
Midland.
Texas.
Maybe there's
South Texas is one, Odessa. Tyler is
With
the
the
new
demo.
person on,
Oh, you're talking about that have the old model?
That have the old model.
the BAT
Right.
model. And those are the ones that are grandfathered under the general academic undergraduate rates.
But are there new ones grandfathered, or are there new ones under?
No,
the-
those are the only ones, and they can have up to, I believe, 3 each. programs.
I think some districts had 6.
I think we They have have 5.
Is
And
there
they
5?
wanted to add a 6.
But y'all are, under the first group that came in, that was
Yes,
the rule.
grandfathered.
Yeah.
But as I understand, our new one would also be grandfathered, right? It would still be under semester credit hours, even if,
I believe so,
Yes.
if there is a new one coming. I
believe
don't know.
And again, the numbers might not be impactful if the actual number of baccalaureates, students that they have in the baccalaureate programs are low. But I just, without knowing what the numbers are, when we go to the legislature next year and ask for funding, I think we might miss the mark if we have an opportunity to ask for funding for something that's working for those pilot schools. But if their numbers are big, it's going to negatively impact the rest of us.
Yeah, for the pilot schools, the funding is very marginal. I mean,
yes, I want to say it was very close to the same way as the contact hour. We compared it, and there wasn't a big difference, a big increase.
right.
If we look at that under charge 1,
But Dr. Maldonado is saying he'd like to physically see that data.
Yeah,
see the data.
Right.
Ask for the data as we look at
Yes.
under charge 1. And for the work group chairs, as you're requesting data from Roland, if you'll copy me on your email so that I can kind of keep track of all the different data reports requests that we have in. So back to our schedule, the second meeting is scheduled October 17th at 1 p.m. Yeah, that is ACCT, and I know there's a Texas breakfast that morning for presidents that will be there with their trustees.
Y'all gonna fly back with a bunch of kids?
So we can have it there. Come on out, Roland.
I'm sorry?
You can come out to San Francisco.
Yeah, sure.
So what do y'all want to do about the October 17th meeting?
My two chairs, I'm out on that day.
So is the Tuesday out of the question? Moving the date?
It looks like Tuesday is open. I'd have to confirm that. I think Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday of that same week are open.
14th, 15th, or 16th? How does the 15th look if we can get the room on the 15th?
So when you're heading out to ACCT.
Tuesday or Wednesday?
Yeah.
Jeremy, when do y'all go out?
Usually Wednesday, but I've got on my calendar Tuesday, so I don't know. I'll have to check.
The whole week?
I'll be in D.C.
So what country are you gonna be in?
Country of. What about
What about Monday?
I'm getting a room.
Monday the 14th.
the 14th?
No, Jim will be gone.
They were joking
Does 14th work for everybody else, October 14th?
What time that week can we
Columbus Day.
here or not?
Anybody
Columbus Day, so some of you may be.
got a golf tournament? Okay,
So-
no go meet.
October 14th, if you can confirm.
I will
that
look and
part.
see.
And if it doesn't work,
Might
let
have
us.
to call in.
I'll let you know.
Okay.
Is that a birthday for you?
And then Thursday, November 7th,
Believe so.
okay? Is that good with everybody on
That's
November?
the Pathways Conference in San
It is, that's the
Antonio.
Pathways Conference in San Antonio on, it is, and that involves a lot of people in this room.
Well, we have,
We could do it on the 6th when we're on the way to San Antonio.
That would help.
That would help me a lot.
Yeah.
well, I'll look and see if the 6th is available.
Sorry, Ron.
Oh, do you need that?
At least we're all going to the same places.
Isn't that
Yeah,
a
Matrix,
Yeah.
that.
And then December is December 5th.
I'm out.
But I'm not chairing anything.
So,
So December. Yeah.
December 6th.
Okay. And then January 9th.
Hopefully not, but
Yeah.
just in case.
Yeah, hopefully not.
Is the 5th okay?
I think that's okay.
So 1 out of the 5.
Yeah. Okay. All
And the
right,
9th is okay?
and the 9th.
That's not
December 5th, about
Hall of Fame.
It's not, it's a new, I think I checked. Let's make sure December 5th is not back.
What did we decide for
Tax is the
October?
following week, it
It's the
starts
following
Saturday.
week. Yeah.
What did we decide for October?
So-
October 14th.
September 16th?
Are y'all?
September 19th, but we're just gonna do work.
Just do work groups, okay, so we're not gonna work that out.
October, so September 19th,
October
work group.
14th.
Yep.
And then November 6th,
We'll all be
and
on.
December and January are fine.
December 5th, I know I'm gonna be out, because I'm on the top floor.
You leave that here, you don't put notes on.
Yeah, but I'm on the
Person will see the committee.
we're there for 2 days before the meeting,
Next time.
which is okay.
What's it, September 1? Let's see here.
September 19th.
Because we'll move it back a bit.
So September 19th, 3 and that
Or,
will be September.
it's okay.
Because they won't
What?
do it, it's a hard copy.
Jeremy's on the SACS board and will be gone
You know
on
what,
December
You're
5th.
gonna have all these.
Can we do it the 4th? Can we do it December 4th?
Sure.
To accommodate both, Jeremy and Jim?
The 6th,
December 4th?
Okay.
Rather than
and now we're moving to December.
Yeah, it's open for right now, I'll have to check.
So we'll move to December 4th so that Jim and Jeremy can be there.
The 3rd, I'm wide open.
To the 4th.
4th is good.
Okay. All right. Well, we just put that
Hey,
one.
well, whatever.
Okay.
On the fourth, it's out for me, but I'll work with them.
Okay, we've done that. Okay. If there are no further questions or points of discussion, do I hear a motion to adjourn?
Second.
Motion by Jim Yiannopoulos, second by Robert Riza.
So I won't be able to make it on the 4th of December, but I'll